In this training module, you'll be learning about the various camera controls and how to get the best views. You can drive from in the cab or an exterior camera. Exterior views are particularly useful for coupling and uncoupling. Currently, you're in the cab of this Class 323 EMU with the same view a real driver would have. Before experimenting with camera views, set the train up correctly as if ready for departure. We will now explore the camera controls. When using a controller, you simply use the same control again to toggle back into the cab. Do that now. Now that you're used to interior and exterior, switch back to the exterior view again to learn more about it. From the exterior, you can move the camera around. Use the controls indicated to move and turn the camera. Spend a minute just practicing moving and turning the camera. You can zoom in and out using the indicated control. Try it now. While in an external camera, you can also interact with some elements such as junctions. You'll be learning about junctions properly in a different training module, but for now, fly over to the indicated junction and change it by interacting with it using the controls indicated. There's a lot more to learn about cameras, including numerous other camera modes. You can find out more in other areas of the training center. That concludes this module. If you wish to replay it, you can come back to it at any time via the training center. In this module, you'll combine everything you learned from the moving a train, passenger operations, and camera controls modules, but from outside the train. Now you'll have the freedom to enjoy external cameras while driving the train. Before you go any further, get the lighting all set up correctly. If you find a train where the master key does not set automatically on the controller, pop back into the cab to do it and then switch back to the exterior view again. Next, use the indicated control. Just as with other modules, you're currently sitting in a Class 323 multiple unit. You must now switch to the exterior camera. If you need a reminder on how to do this, head over to the camera controls module first and have a quick refresher. Aside from the magnificent views, exterior camera views can make it easier to complete tasks such as coupling, checking your lights, and changing junctions. Only a small number of the most common functions are usable for an exterior camera. If you find you need to do something that isn't available, simply switch to the internal camera to do it, and then switch back. Finally, use the indicated In this training module, you're going to learn to drive a diesel-electric locomotive and how the controls differ from a multiple unit. This is a BR Class 66 diesel-electric locomotive typically used for freight operations in the United Kingdom. In some trains, it is first necessary to insert the reverser handle. We need to do that on this one. We want to move the train forwards, so move the reverser in that direction. The train brake on the Class 66 uses a sprung lever. Holding it one way will gradually release the brakes until you release the lever. Holding it the other will gradually apply the brakes. You need to keep an eye on the two brake gauges in front of you. The larger one in the middle is the brake pipe. The outside needle shows the target pressure and the inside needle shows the actual pressure. When you apply or release the brakes, the outer needle moves and the onboard control systems will begin to adjust the brakes to match your setting. You can make a change to the brakes and focus on the road ahead while the system works to match the pressure you've set. The second gauge of note is the brake cylinder gauge, which is the second from the left. This tells you exactly what is happening with the brakes on the two sets of wheels on the locomotive. If the needles are raised to a V shape, that means they are fully applied. When the needles are both pointing directly down, the brakes on the locomotive will be fully released. You can learn more about braking systems elsewhere in the training center. But for now, you just need to remember that you are directly controlling the outer needle on the brake pipe gauge and that the end result is shown on the brake cylinder gauge. Keep the brake control in release until you can see the brake pipe control needle is reading 5 bar, pointing upwards. This will release the brakes fully. Watch the brake cylinder gauge to see it gradually reduce to 0.0. Needles pointing downwards, which tells you that the brakes are now fully released on the locomotive and you can move the train. It's important to note that the brake cylinder gauge is only telling you what's happening on your locomotive. If you have wagons attached, they can take a little longer to release, so if the train doesn't move immediately, don't worry. Apply some throttle to get the train moving. As you apply power, notice the ammeter rising, the gauge on the right-hand side with the colored sections. This is the amount of power being fed into the traction motors. Try to keep it in the green section, only briefly in the yellow, and avoid the red section to avoid damaging your traction motors. Now that you've reached your target speed, you can move the throttle control back to 0. The train will then coast on level ground and the train will only slow down very gradually. That's far enough. Bring this train to a complete stop by holding the brake control in the apply state until you see the brake pipe control needle in the center of your cab desk showing about 4 bar. The amount of braking you'll need to apply also varies depending on whether you're going uphill or downhill and how heavy your train is. Stopping a train is one of the biggest challenges of controlling it, particularly stopping it in the right place. You'll get better at this with practice. That concludes this module. If you wish to replay it, you can come back to it at any time via the training center.
Welcome to the Class 47/3 locomotive in BR Corporate Blue livery. This brief introduction will go through start-up, stopping and passenger door operations. A lot of time will be spent in the locomotive cab. To get the locomotive started, set the battery isolation switch. To activate this cab, you must lift up the change end lever. This must be activated always from the lead cab, otherwise you will not be able to sit in the driver's seat to get. The master key is used to activate the control desk. Press the fire alarm test button for 2 seconds to ensure the system is working. Move the reverser into the engine only position. The locomotive is now ready to be started. Use the straight air brake to hold the locomotive during the start-up procedure. Release the brakes to allow the system to charge. Use the reverser to set the direction of travel. High intensity headlights and markers. Almost ready. Release the remaining brakes. Increase the throttle to start moving. Do not apply too much power too quickly. It's important to provide a smooth ride for passengers. Stopping a train in the right place is a skill that takes years of practice. It might take a few attempts to get it right. Now let's try stopping at a station and boarding passengers. The key aspect is to make a gentle, controlled approach. Depending on the speed of the train, begin braking between 1 and 1.5 miles from the platform. Good work. You have covered the basics of driving a Class 47/3 diesel locomotive. This is the British Rail Class 86/4 locomotive in BR Corporate Blue livery. In this brief introduction, we will go through various procedures such as cab setup, passenger door operations, driving and stopping. You will need to enter the locomotive to get started. To activate this cab, you must lift up the change end lever. This must be activated always from the lead cab, otherwise you will not be able to take control of the locomotive. Sit in the driver's seat to continue the setup procedure. Set the master key to activate the driver's desk. Headlights and markers are used to inform others around that the guard has given you the clearance for departure by blowing their whistle. Set the master switch to the full. To release the brakes, move and hold the train brake handle to the release overcharge position. Observe the brake gauge. Once the brakes are released, you can let go. The train brake will spring back into the running position. Controller is controlled by the notching lever, also known as a tap changer, which has 6 notches: off, run down, notch down, hold, notch up and run up. Notch up is to be used for the gradual application of power when starting trains away, or to increase power by small amounts whilst running by moving the power controller to and fro between the hold and notch up position. The notch position can be increased one at a time over the whole of the notching range. During notching up, the traction motor ammeters should be observed to ensure the ammeter needles do not remain in the red sector for long periods and that they remain approximately level. Hold is used to retain the selected notch position once the desired speed has been attained. Run-up is to be used to increase power rapidly when, for example, the power has been shut off or reduced for coasting at speed, by notching the power controller automatically. The power controller is spring-loaded in this position and will return to the notch-up position when released. Notchdown is to be used to reduce power one notch at a time by moving the power controller to and fro between hold and notchdown positions. Each complete movement reduces the tap changer position by one notch. Rundown is to be used to reduce power when the desired speed is attained. Coasting is a method used to efficiently maintain a constant speed and reduces motor stress and maintenance requirements. Moving the power controller to off means the traction motor contactors are open, hence no power can reach the traction motors. The tap changer is also used to provide braking effort via the rheostatic brake, which uses the traction motors to brake the locomotive. This is done by turning the motors into generators, which convert the kinetic energy of the locomotive into electricity. This excess electricity is sent to a bank of resistors, which dissipates the energy in a form of heat. A set of blowers are provided below the resistors, which speed up in proportion to the strength of the rheostatic brake applied, resulting in the classic wailing sound whilst braking. Approaching the station, begin applying a small amount of braking force by moving the brakes into the braking range. includes the basics of this locomotive.
TPWS and AWS operational. you.